Ibra di testa, Tonali, gol! Sandro! Meritato! Sandro! Gol!
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host Ollie Fisher, joined once again by Anthony Talgrud.
What's up, guys? Glad to be back. We're sans Madison yet again. He's got that duty, so it was already the norm, but expect it more so now that he misses every couple. But yeah, we're here, we're ready, and we actually got a dub to talk about. So
yeah, we do indeed. We've got a game to recap, 2 games to preview, and I guess the good news is that we're 4 wins in a row in Serie A, so things are looking pretty good. But then that kind of contrasts with our Champions League form at the moment, which will of course be another big topic of conversation on this week's episode. But what we'll do is dive straight into the game that we have got to look back upon, which was played on Saturday evening at San Siro. Bit of a funny one. I mean, it's our first ever Serie A meeting against Monza. We have played them before 10 times. We've played
11.
them before.
This was the 11th.
The 11th, yeah. We played them 10 times before, 6 of which were in the Italian Cup, and 4 times of which were in the second division, but we don't want to talk about that. But they'd only beaten us once previously, and the last meeting was like 1987. So we hadn't played these guys for a long time, and yet it felt eerily familiar because you see Galliani hugging Maldini before the game. Breda, who actually works for Cremonese, but he still showed up because it was felt like a big family reunion, to be totally honest. Berlusconi, I believe, was there, but he wasn't pitch side before the game. But obviously, he is like 86 now.
Yeah, he doesn't
so
need to be on the field.
Watch it from the comfort of his box. That being said, there were some doubts about whether he would be there because of his political commitments. I mean, that guy is still going strong into his mid-80s.
That blows my mind, honestly, but
yeah.
that's a whole different discussion as to age limits in politics and whatnot, But
I mean, Zlatan will still be under contract with us by that age, so
of course,
yeah, naturally. But aside from all the pleasantries and stuff that happened before the game, it was a pretty, I would say, clinical performance from us on the field. Before we dive into the goals individually, I think generally speaking, it was nice to win a game where we took the first couple of big chances that came our way. We were then able to coast a little bit, if we're being totally honest, and it was just a professional job done ahead of what is a bigger game on tomorrow night, Tuesday night.
Yeah, I don't think anyone thought we would drop points in this one. I mean, obviously they just beat Juventus, so there's that. Like they aren't a slouch club, but you could argue beating Juventus nowadays isn't as big a deal as it used to be.
Yeah,
exactly. But I mean, Tatarusanu had an assist for the first goal. Brahim Diaz, another, not quite a coast to coast, but from midfield solo goal, ran it in, and it was actually probably better than the first coast to coast he scored against Juve, just because of he got that flick off while he was being pulled down. Not that it would have been a penalty in the box or anything like that if he didn't get that shot off, but he got the shot off as he was on the ground, and it went in. So that was great. And then Origi had a few chances after that and fumbled on all of them. And then finally he passes the ball and Brahim gets the second. He was right there in the box, received the ball, just turned to the outside and shot it first time, and it was in. And, you could argue that the technique to do that was better than the one where he just ran because, yes, there were defenders, but they weren't really challenging him at all. So this one took a bit more skill and footballing IQ to put the ball away, and I'm glad he got in. He's obviously in great form. He's on 4 goals this season. I think last season he was on 3 total. So I think he's
3. Yeah, I think it was 4 in all comps. So he's
something like
already
that.
matched his total, which is a good sign because the thing about last season was that he got 4 goals in his first 9 games, and then he didn't score another goal. Whereas hopefully now that's the start of some kind of consistency. But we've been here before with Brahim.
Yeah.
You got to give him his props though, because it was his night really. That first half, as you alluded to, was the Brahim Diaz show. Like he was really good.
100%.
He was really, really good. The technique to bring the ball down for the first goal on the halfway line, so it was near enough coast to coast for an attacking player anyway. One thing I will say is they were playing in all red and they did part like the Red Sea, did Monza. They were not anywhere near. But tactical analysis, as always, is on our website. It's worth a look over. there were some interesting things that led up to that being a possibility, and that also included Brahim Diaz's position. If you look at where he was during the game, he actually ended up playing
Mostly
a
right.
bit, over to the right and a bit deeper as well, almost as a box-to-box player. And I think that dragged their midfield out a bit, and it left the space between the lines, and that's what he exploited for the first goal, and it's what he exploited for the second goal as well, to sit on the edge of the box, wait for the ball to come to him. And I think it was a better goal, technically. It might actually be the best goal that he scored for us, aside from that one at Juventus away when he found the top corner.
Mm-hmm.
Because to take the touch to settle the ball, knock it out so you're into your stride, and then to hammer it bottom left far corner, that was a really, really good goal. Messi-esque, you might say. But it was a fantastic performance from him. One thing I will say as well is I'm glad that we got the second goal when we did, because they were starting to threaten just a little bit. They'd had that diving header that Tatarusanu saved, but he didn't know that much about, I think it would be fair to say.
Yeah, it really bounced off his body. I don't think he expected the ball at all. It was right place, right time sort of deal, you know?
Like 2 yards either side, and we're probably looking at that being 1-1.
Yeah.
And that came after the Sensi shot from 20 yards that Tatarusanu just about, I guess, double-handed away. Could have caught it probably, but, you know, it is what it is. 2-0 at half-time, happy days. There you can kind of manage the energy levels a little bit. If you look at the data from our performance, again, in the tactical analysis, our pressing numbers generally were down, which implies that it was a lower intensity performance. You've probably got to keep a bit in the bank for the game on Tuesday night with the travel and stuff that's coming up. And obviously we will talk about that. But
yeah. I did think the halftime substitution at the time for taking Dest off for Kalou was a bit harsh, because I thought he was actually having his best half of ball for us that season. As we know now, he's fatigued. I've been saying all week, like, that's not a real injury. When you're a professional athlete, you can't say, like, mid-game, you're tired, you got to come off, cool. But, like, the fact he's not traveling to Zagreb because he's tired from a game 4 days prior blows my fucking mind. Like,
man tired after doing job.
Yeah, like, I don't
We've
get
all
it,
been
you know? Like, it's
uh,
Monday morning. I got to go to work after this. I'm tired
Yeah.
too, but it is what it is. So
it's kind of weird as well, because, like, we're used to this, but with Zlatan, it's like Zlatan
and that's
gets
different
this
because he's 45.
He's 49. He's 49
old
years
man.
old.
It's the Dest saga continues, and it's a unique one, that's for sure. But then Starboy Brahim is injured, comes off. Luckily, he will travel. But CDK comes on, and we'll get to what he did towards the end of this recap.
What he didn't do.
It was interesting though, because we were 2-0 up, and then we made some offensive substitutes. I mean, we brought on Liao, who, you know, a normal person would be like, "Why are you risking the MVP?
We lost
you don't
our
need
shit in the chat at that. Like, why are you bringing him on? He's going to start."
Well, and then he almost, it looked like he picked up a knock, like, immediately thereafter. I mean, luckily he didn't. It was just kind of like he stretched himself a bit. But yeah, we're all like, "What are you doing, Pioli? This is unnecessary." And then Origi finally gets his first goal.
Yeah,
he scored. And it was a beautiful shot too.
It really was. It was a howitzer. Like, we've seen him try them from that kind of range. I think it would be fair to say he hasn't always picked the best moments to try and get his first goal before, and he's been snatching at it. This time it was kind of like he was happy to play the supporting role for 60 minutes, however long it was. I can't remember when the third goal went in. And 65. Then 65, and then he picked up the ball, and Charles won't get the credit for this. That I think he should. It's his smart run in behind that then drags the defender, and the space opens up in front of Origi. And after he's taken the touch, he's like, "All right, I've got a clear lane here. This is when I should have been shooting before." And then absolute howitzer of a shot into the top corner. There was no chance that Di Gregorio was going to save that. And
I thought he was injured during his celebration also, because he immediately hands on knees. And I think it was more just like relief, like, I finally got that goal. But in the moment, and everyone crowded around him, I was like, "Ah, shit, he pulled a hamstring or something."
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because Pioli mentioned after, I believe it was after the game against Verona, he mentioned that Origi had taken a shot on with his right foot, and that was a sign that he was back to 100%. because I guess obviously he's had his injury problems and perhaps he didn't feel comfortable enough putting his foot fully through a ball. And then he did that and scored the goal, and it looked like he'd completely broken his muscle again. And I was worried. I mean, I thought Brahim's would be worse than what it was, because when they're holding like the top of the back of the leg, you're thinking, oh no, he's done something there. And he requested a substitution immediately, but maybe given that it's not a serious problem, it was just precaution more than anything. But yeah, a good moment for Origi, and good to get his first goal at home as well. Hopefully the first of many to come. And I thought his performance in general was very good. It was selfless for the majority of it. And he gives us something totally different to what Giroud does. And I think against teams that are going to come and play with 10 behind the ball majority of the time, you're going to need a mobile and physical striker. You can't just have a Giroud type who sits there and waits for flicks and is kind of right place, right time. Giroud has his moments, don't get me wrong, but I was really impressed with what Origi brought to the table in what is his first start for us, remember. That is his first start. And we spoke last week about how important it can be to get first minute so you can grow into a game. I think that was the prime example. And yeah, I'm buzzing for him and for Brahim. And then they scored, which was a bit of a shame because we predicted a clean sheet, I believe, 3-0 and 2-0 respectively. And I mean, Tatarushanu's going to get his fair share of pelters for this one. But I'll go on record as saying fair dues to Filippo Ranocchia for taking on a shot from about 35 yards there. And it was the only place that was going to beat him. He put it right in the right next to the post there, but he should save it.
I agree. I mean, it is what it is, man. It's
He's slow getting up.
I don't expect it. Like,
it's not a howler by any means, but it's just
it was a great free kick.
Yeah,
but it's one that every other goalkeeper on our staff probably would have saved. I mean, that might be harsh.
Diga.
I don't know,
no,
but Morante, Tita's not on the staff anymore.
Yeah,
but it's another example of the skill gap between Tatarusanu and Maignan. Not that anyone was questioning if that existed or not, but it's just frustrating because you're at this point looking at a 3-0 win, and then all of a sudden now it's 3-1, and now they're pushing. They think maybe they could get a second or maybe even a third. I don't know, but all of a sudden they were attacking high line, and you actually said they're pushing too far forward. 5-1 incoming, and it really could have been 5. It ended up being 4-1. Leao obviously had a great goal at the end there. Shouldn't have been playing at all, but he got a goal nonetheless, and now he's on 5 for this season, I believe.
Yeah, 5 in the league. Yeah, he's got 13 goal contributions in 14 games in all comps. So that's very good return.
Yeah, great. I'm super happy with him. Obviously no complaints on Leao other than this wasn't a game he needed to play, but he came out of it unscathed and with the goal. So, I have no issues with that. But yeah, it was just one of those things with Tate. The shots that he did saved seemed kind of lucky, but obviously a save's a save. I'll take it. It just like the diving header, he wasn't even looking at the player. He didn't put his hands up to block it. It just hit his body and deflected.
It's interesting because the goalkeepers would tell you that part of that is positioning. Like you've got to have a sixth sense to know if there's a shot coming at me, it's probably going to be here. But yeah, he didn't know an awful lot about it. It was a diving header from pretty close range. But yeah, it did well to keep that out. It was a shame that there was no clean sheet in the end. But yeah, as I say, I kind of respect him taking on the strike from there. They then had another free kick that was just outside the box, and that would have made it 3-2. And I thought, oh God, if this goes in, we're in for a bit of a
Well, and that's the frustrating part about it is obviously at this point we didn't know that Napoli were going to beat Roma, and it was still up for grabs there. But we thought, if we could cut that goal difference as much as possible here, then maybe we could make a late push to jump them. Obviously, head-to-head is most important at the end of the season, but we're not there yet. So it would have been nice. And then we needed 5 goals, and we ended up needing it 6, and then they obviously won. So now it doesn't matter at all. But yeah, in the moment, you're just like, come on, how do we not keep a clean sheet against Monza? We should be keeping clean sheets, but it is what it is.
It's interesting because we did mention it last week in the preview, but Monza have kind of built a reputation for being defensively sound. they'd conceded 1 in their last 4 games. I think it was actually 1 in 400 minutes that they'd conceded coming into this game. So I wasn't expecting us to blow them away in the way that we did. I predicted 2-0, but I thought, that would be quite a difficult 2-0 grinding out. So to score 4 was good, and we massively outperformed our XG. Again, if you read into XG or not, it doesn't really matter, but it suggests that we scored more than we should have done, and it's probably been more the opposite this season. We've missed big chances, and this time we took them, and hopefully it's a bit of a watershed moment, and from here we really do start dispatching of the lesser teams in the league, because we found it a bit difficult. I mean, the Verona game was a prime example of that. When you leave it until the 81st minute, it never looks like a good performance, whereas this was pretty good, pretty professional. I was happy. Man of the match, I guess.
Yeah, we'll do tops and flops or whatever. I think Brahim, easy top, and I don't really have a flop, I guess.
No. So top, to be different, I'll pick a second one and I'll say Origi. I thought it was good, gets his goal, and as I say, pretty selfless performance from a centre forward. He was willing to do the dirty work. He fought for every single ball that was put up to him, that I think Giroud is guilty of sometimes not doing. And he drifted into the wider areas, and I've always said that that's generally problematic for a centre forward to be there, but at least he was supported by runners in the box, and we looked better for it. But there was some other good performances in there as well. I thought generally speaking the midfield did pretty well, but my flop of the match, and this leads into it, is probably Pobega. He didn't make any huge errors or anything like that, but this isn't a game where you can pick out any huge errors, and you might pick out to Tatarashanu and say, he cost us the clean sheet. But I just think, I read a stat, he only completed 50% of his passes, and that's not good enough for a central midfielder, and he was the one who just didn't quite look up to the pace for me. But he's playing a really, really odd and specific role at the moment. He tends to be the one who's pushing up more. And this wasn't helped as well, by the way, by the fact that Benacer had a fever going into Friday night. So we didn't know what the starting double pivot was going to be. And then by Saturday morning, he'd recovered from it. And all of a sudden, it was back to being Pobega Benacer. So I don't know if that plays a part or not. But yeah, Pobega is just being used for his size, really, and to carry the ball as much as he possibly can. But also, like as an out ball and for late runs into the box and stuff. And it's kind of like we're trying to use him as a 10, sort of like how we did Kessie. But it just isn't really clicking for him, for me anyway.
Yeah, I think it's probably harsh to give it to him.
Yeah.
But really, there's no one you could single out. I mean, the thing that comes to mind immediately, I know I just said earlier I don't have one, but as I listened to you, rant for a few minutes there, gave me time to think. And I guess CDK, because of his silly whiff at the end. Macias should have had another assist, and CDK should have had an incredible first goal, and he swung and hit air. So that's the only thing I could point out for a flop. But even then, it's like, Origi's goal was created, like you said, from his run. So CDK is an interesting one because he does so much right. The problem is the things he does wrong are the things that wins games, scores goals, or gets assists, and that's the most important part of the sport at the end of the day. You got to score to win, and he's not scoring, he's not assisting, so all the other great things he does are getting overlooked, and it's kind of like Brahim in his first season. We kept saying, he makes these great runs, but he falls over, or his decision-making in the final third is bad. Like, now we're seeing that change, and it's kind of the same with CDK right now. So I guess you could give it to him, but I don't know, it's all a bit rough.
There is a bit of, there really is a bit of Tonali and Leao sort of, I don't know what you call it, sort of similar signs, I think, to their first seasons with us, where you're seeing these glimpses and you're like, there is definitely something in there, but how long in terms of a run of games it takes to be fully unlocked? Is it a case of games? Is it months? Is it more than a season? I guess we don't know yet. He's only 21. He's got plenty of time, and he has the full backing of the management, of course. But when you're getting an easy, unmarked chance at the far post, and you get caught between, I don't know what, I really don't know what he was doing. He's misjudged the bounce a bit. I think it would be fair to say. Maybe he can go at it with his head. He can definitely
he might have
take
been
a
a bit
touch.
too far forward, I think, and that's probably why he went for like a ridiculous scissor kick. But you, look, Zlatan would take the scissor there too. You know, Rebic probably would. Leao wouldn't, but he would down it and get it in. Like, you can't fault the guy for going for the incredible. You could fault him for it when he hasn't scored yet. I think that's the difference, because all these top caliber athletes are taking that shot as well. The difference is they're making 15, 20 goals a season, and it's like, all right, you miss one, you know?
Yeah, you got the
But
credit.
because he's missed all, and now it's like, what are you doing, man? Just settle it, take the easy shot, head it in. Like, you got a wide open net, you're unmarked in the box. Relax, take a shot. And I think that's what everyone's been telling him all season is you need to relax. You need to be a bit more attack minded. So like maybe that's what it was. He's like, just take the shot first time. But it's also like, make sure you have the ball, you know. So
well, I think if I was in that dressing room and I'm Origi, I'm putting a hand around my compatriot's shoulder and sort of saying, "Look, I know how you feel. I snatched at quite a lot of them all as well, and then I found my moment, and you saw what happened. So
it's also probably a bit of a mental hurdle for him to get over, because he was brought in to replace Brahim, and now Brahim's excelling, and he's now below Krunic in the pecking order according to today's reports for the Zagreb game. So it's like, where's his mind spiraling? Remember, he's a kid. He's 21 years old. He's probably feeling a little dejected. He had all this hype, all this weight on his shoulders. He's failed to meet that hype, and the guy he's replacing is doing what he was signed to do, and now it's looking like he's losing that spot. So yeah, it's definitely a little nerve-wracking. I mean, he left the game without the celebration, went under the tunnel, which we all just slated Ronaldo for doing as well. So like, I'm not happy about that. I think it's a bad look. I don't care where you're at, you should not be doing that, but I get why he's feeling down. He just, once he gets that goal, he's going to be great, though, I think.
Yeah. It might not even come until after the World Cup or something like that, that we start to see consistent 7 out of 10 performances or whatever. But we're seeing signs. We're seeing signs. It just needs to be strung together, I guess. I think it's a bit of a non-story, the thing of him going down a tunnel. I understand what you're saying. I think it probably isn't a good look when the entire rest of the team goes to show their appreciation for the fans. That's what it's all about. It's sort of it's more that than the other way around. And maybe CDK is thinking of it like, I don't deserve the chance from the fans that are going to come, and he just wanted to get off. And but yeah, I don't know. I get the feeling that, just as you say, because he's young, that should take the pressure off. As in, like, he's got so much time, but it doesn't. It probably works the other way, because we know how your mind works when you're young. It's not exactly rational, is it?
Yeah, we know he's got 10 years to figure it out, or however long. But when you're 21, you think you have it all figured out, and when you start to fail, you're like, I'm a loser. So yeah, it is what it is.
You got to remember as well, Brahim Diaz is 2 years older, and he's in his third season with us, and and he had a pretty bad end to last season. So yeah, anything can happen from here, but it's good to know that he's obviously got the full support of everyone. Yeah. Right, let's do some Champions League preview. So we face our last away trip of the Champions League group stages for 2022-23, and it is a very, very big game. There's quite a lot riding on this one. It's Dinamo Zagreb in Croatia. We saw Chelsea, albeit under Thomas Tuchel, struggle there. They didn't score. They lost 1-0. I think they've probably built a bit of a reputation for being very tough to play. Red Bull Salzburg didn't beat them there either. So we entered this game level on points with them. We both got 4 points. We're ahead on the head-to-head at the moment, in third place in the table. Then ahead of us are Salzburg and Chelsea leading the group. So the equations are actually pretty complicated in terms of how we can reach the Champions League knockout stages, because head-to-head and goal difference and mini leagues and stuff can come into it. But basically, if we win both games, then we're definitely in, and that has to be the target, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think you'd want to not go for the 6 points here. I mean, if Chelsea beat Salzburg, Chelsea's automatically through. Mm-hmm. So that gives us a good opportunity, because if we win, then we're over them as well. We'd be second with 7th. We're with 7 points, and then we just need a draw to go through at that point. So, I mean, I think we should be good. Obviously, we beat them.
We would need
3-1
more than a draw to go through. Also, hello everyone, I'm
against
back.
Salzburg. Yeah, Madison joined us. And for the
Yeah,
people
Madison
listening, not watching.
No, because if we got 7, oh, you're right, because we play Salzburg on the. I was like, if Salzburg win the last game, they'd jump us, but no, that wouldn't be a draw for us.
Yeah.
Ignore my ignorance.
Yeah. He's just waking up. He just got here. He's been busy.
And I guess, it is good to be going into the last 2 games with our destiny in our own hands, because last season it was a bit more of a struggle. We'd won that game away at Atletico Madrid to then go into the final group stage game, hoping that we could get a favour from the other game and hoping we could beat Liverpool, who had won every group stage game to that point. So this time it just feels a bit more manageable, definitely in our hands, as I say. There are combinations where we don't need to win both games, as kind of been alluded to there. We could do with a favour from Chelsea tomorrow as well. That would definitely be nice, but obviously Salzburg at home are no mugs, so we can't really expect that. 6 points has to be the target. Dinamo Zagreb, since we last played them, have obviously lost to Salzburg away from home and then drew with them at home in the Champions League. But in league play, they are absolutely flying still. They've won 11 of their 13 games this season, scored 38 goals, only let in 14. They've won 4 out of the last 5. But they did draw their most recent game 1-1 with Hajduk Split, which I believe is quite a big derby game in Croatia. So whether they did a bit of rotating in view of this game, I don't know. But Monza did that in the cup, before playing us, and it didn't exactly work out. In fact, they won the cup game and then got hammered by us. So, what the coaches know.
Yeah, I mean, Rebic is from Split, so he'll have that rivalry built into him.
Yeah, back a card if you're a betting person. I would definitely be putting money on a card.
But yeah, I mean, look, they had 7 shots against us in the first reverse, and obviously we had Mignon in for that game, so it wasn't as scary, I guess, at the time. But 7 shots against Tatu Rishanu, I'd back 1 or 2 of them to go in. Yeah, just the way it goes with that guy. But you're looking at it, Orsic has scored in 3 games for them, I believe. Or no, he's scored against us and against Chelsea. And it was Lubicic or whatever was the Salzburg goal they scored. I think they've only scored 3 in the Champions League this season.
The equaliser against Salzburg was indeed Lubicic. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, Orsic is someone I would watch, obviously,
I like
and
him,
I guess
actually, yeah.
Lubicic is the other one you want to look out for. But the hardest part about this is traveling to Zagreb and Croatia there, because they're just going to have a different mentality going in. Home stadium, those fans are going to be crazy. It's a huge game. Obviously, we saw Chelsea fail there. So anything could happen, but we know what we have to do. I think our lineup is a little odd. I would start Origi over Giroud, but we're hearing Giroud's going to start. So
you have to go with the guy who has the most Champions League experience.
Origi won a Champions League. I guess so does Giroud.
So does
but Origi
Giroud,
scored the winner.
Yeah, it's a big game, absolutely, and I don't know what Pioli's thinking in that. Is it just simple as rotating like he started the last game, so Giroud starts this one with a bit of rest, hopefully he performs a bit better as the lone striker? Or is it even a case of Pioli's already thinking they're going to try and make themselves really difficult to beat, chances are going to be few and far between, so you want the player who's going to let them come to him rather than snatch at them? I don't know if he thinks about it that way. But yeah, our lineup is going to be a little bit all over the place, because Fikayo Tomori is suspended, Malik Chow is not part of the UEFA squad list, and then obviously we've got Florenzi and Calabria out until early next year. Dest didn't travel. So what we're looking at is a back 4 of Teo, Kier, Gabia, and Kalulu. I would imagine that this is going to end up functioning as a bit of a back 3, to be honest.
Yeah, because their only defender on the bench is Kubo, the youth player. I don't know if I'm saying his name right.
Kubis, yeah.
Kubis.
I mean, realistically, he's probably not gonna get near. He shouldn't.
Yeah,
he shouldn't. As good a talent as he is, and he's certainly physically robust enough, but there's still some work to be done there. And I guess Ballatore, but obviously he's for the left back position, right, yeah. So it doesn't really affect us all that much. But yeah, I can see it functioning as like a 3. but that's really the only hitch. We'll have Tonali Benacer back, which is definitely our first choice double pivot at the moment.
And one of them are dropping into defense anyways. They'll be between the center backs.
Yeah. But Benacer's been doing that quite a bit recently, and Tonali's been the one pushing up. So it might even resemble like a 4-1-4-1 again. We'll see. And then I think it's going to be Rebic on the right wing, which is something that we have hypothesized for some time. Pioli has often said in the media that Rebic just simply doesn't like playing on the right side. But we've highlighted a couple of the goals he's been involved in recently have actually come from him being on the right side. So we're finally going to see it from minute one if reports are to be believed. Of course, things can change between now and then. But that would be, in my opinion, good. I think he should be starting this game because if anyone's going to get it, and if anyone's going to be accustomed to this kind of hellish atmosphere, then it's him. Obviously back on home soil and everything. But also he's been pretty good, and I do think he's probably a better option for us than anything else we can field on the right hand side at the moment. And then the playmaker to offset that is probably going to be Krunic, then Leao and Giroud. I mean, it's a lineup that should beat Dinamo Zagreb on paper. Games aren't played on paper, but it should be enough.
Yeah.
I
agree.
I guess to predict, one thing I will say is that I think Dinamo Zagreb have changed systems a little bit since we played them, just looking through the games and stuff, and they line up in a 4-2-3-1 now.
Would this be our first away Champions League win since
Atletico Madrid?
Oh, did we win away last year?
Yeah. 1-0 Macias.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was home or away.
The Dinamo home one was our first one since 8 years ago, maybe 9.
Our first home win?
Our first home win, yes, since we beat Celtic 2-0 in 2013-14. So, yeah, that was a bit scary. But, yeah, we beat them at home. I'm hoping that we can replicate that and do it again, but I'm not expecting an easy game at all.
They know what they have to do. Europa League is a lot more valuable to them than it is to us. So even getting third is significantly more important to Zagreb than it is to us, so I could see them going all out, risking cars and injuries just so they could steal that third place spot. Because if we lose, we can't finish third, right? Like we're stuck in fourth, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah. Because of the head-to-head, then, unless we
go to goal difference. That is correct, which they have us on right now. So
and I do think that a defeat is not absolutely out of the realms of possibility, especially if we go behind and they commit to defending and we just really struggle to break them down. But yeah, the atmosphere is going to make things very difficult. Hopefully the players, because they play in front of 75,000 every other week, are going to be well used to it. But yeah, I do expect it to be a tough examination of where we're at from a mental resilience point of view. That being said, I am going to tip us to win. And I think that this would be huge psychologically as well. To then keep things in our own hands going into the final round, especially if word comes out that Chelsea have done us a favour against Salzburg, and that will play into our hands. Then
are they playing before we are?
No, it's the same time for the last two rounds.
That makes sense. Yeah,
we kick off at the same time, so there's no advantage from that.
Yeah, so we'll know at halftime if Chelsea's up 3-4-0 or something. We'll be like, all right, cool.
Yeah,
gives us a little wiggle room.
Yeah. So I will pick us to win this 2-1. And I think the winning goal will be scored by Sandro Tonali again. Oof. So that's a bit of a more specific prediction, but there you go.
I think it's going to be unnecessarily difficult, but we're still going to win, and I'll say 3-2.
Ooh.
I'm going to say we're going to win 1-0 with a CDK goal.
I'd love it, even though he's not
and
on
all
off
of
the bench,
haters can shut the fuck up.
Yeah, you're not a fan of the CDK hater.
I'm not at all.
No.
CDK's not even going to play. Kurt's going to start, and Brahim's going to replace him.
So we've all predicted a win by 1 goal there, which I think shows that we're not underestimating Dinamo. But let's hope for 3 points in that, and then we have Torino coming up next. So we will travel to Torino on Sunday night to try and extend our winning run in Serie A to 5 games after the victory against Monza on Saturday. Torino have been a bit of a funny side this season so far, and I think their last few games shows it really. Their most recent result was a 2-1 win away at I think it's fair to call them still high-flying Udinese, even though they've now dropped to 6th. But that was a big win. Prior to that, their results have been a 4-0 Coppa Italia win against Cittadella, which means that we will meet them in the Coppa Italia round of 32 or 16?
16.
16 we come in at, yeah. But before that, they lost the derby 1-0 against Juve, and I thought that was harsh, actually.
They were doing really well in that game.
Yeah, I thought they deserved to take the lead if anybody, but then Juve always find a way in that game. It's bizarre, no matter how bad they're playing. Then prior to that, a draw at home to Empoli and a loss away at Napoli. So Torino have found themselves 9th in the table, which is pretty good for them. The 2 teams above them are Juve and Inter. So they're in some decent-ish company. And the most important thing for them, I think, after the last couple of seasons that they've had is that they're 9 points clear of the bottom 3 already. Which is a pretty sizable gap. I don't think they're going to be in any trouble this year.
My thing with them, I think it should be pretty simple and straightforward for us. Just looking at who they've dropped points to, it's all of the teams you would expect to be in the top, European spots. You draw to Lazio, lost to Atalanta, lost to Inter, lost to Juve, lost to Napoli. Sassuolo's hit or miss, where they're going to finish, and then obviously Empoli's the one under wild card that they drop points to. But then you look at going against us, and it's like, all right, so we should be another team that they drop points to. I'm not concerned about a below the list Torino side at all, to be honest with you. I couldn't even. In fact, who is their top goal scorer this season? I don't know. It is Vlasic with 3
Nikola
goals.
Vlasic. There's something strange about this Torino team. If you look at it kind of back to front, or based on the lineup of the last game anyway. In centre-back, they've got Per Schurz, who those who follow the rumours closely will remember we were linked with him when we needed the centre-back when he was at Ajax. That was seen as a pretty good scalp, but I gather that he struggled to adapt a little bit. Then in midfield, Samuel Origi was really heavily linked with us and then ended up going there from Empoli. Nikola Vlasic was the guy we picked, I think, when he was at CSK in Moscow to be our new number 10. He didn't end up arriving, went to West Ham and has now ended up at Torino. Miranchuk, we were really heavily linked with. And Pellegrini we had. And he scored the winner on yesterday against Udinese. So it's a bit of a strange one. It's all the crossroads coming back to find us again. But their lineup doesn't strike fear into me. I mean, if you're starting Pietro Pellegrini as your striker, I know he scored, but
and their form at home is half as good as their away. They've scored, or they picked up 9 points away and only 5 at home. And since we're playing them Inter in, like it is, I don't know. There's no reason to fear this game. I mean, this should be the most walk in the park of them all. Obviously, Tatarusanu wild card
should probably be the biggest walk in the park.
Yes, and it certainly was. It certainly was. But I'm not worried. Tatarusanu wild card is the only thing that strikes a little fear. Don't want to predict any clean sheets, but we'll win.
We'll win if Origi starts.
I like it. I think he needs to be starting more. I need that boy to score 19 more goals.
Only 19.
But hey, we're starting hot now.
I agree. That it seems like the kind of game for him to play a back 3 as well. And I think the back 3 is probably their weakness. So
without Bremer as well,
Also,
they lost their 2 stars.
Singo didn't play in the last game, so I'm not sure if he's injured or whatever, but he is definitely one of their best players. So it'd be worth keeping an eye on if he comes back into the lineup or not. He's another one that we've been very heavily linked with. I think we'll win. I'm going to go 1-0. I think it will be a close game. But I think we'll just about get the job done with a goal in the second half off the bench from Rebic.
I'm going to go 3-1. Torino just suck. We're going to be flying high after
They're literally
Champions
like
League
top
win.
half. They're not that bad.
Nah, they suck. 3-1.
I'm going to say 2-1.
Fingers crossed, that'd be nice. I mean, we're sort of waiting for a slip up from Napoli that hasn't been coming just yet, and I do think it's coming at some point.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't exactly brilliant against Roma, But they did. I think they did enough. And if you keep a clean sheet, you've got every chance, obviously.
As great as Osimhen's goal was yesterday, it was simply because Smalling played the ball right into him. Smalling had it, and then he
should do better for me as well. But
yeah. I mean, the keeper didn't even try to move. He just watched and went, "Oh no!"
But he pulled his arm in. It was ridiculous. It was like he had a tenner on Osimhen to score.
I think it was almost like he thought the trajectory was going out, so he's like, "I better not get a touch on it. Just let it be a goal kick."
Yeah.
And then it was in, which is why you always go for the save if it's there.
Fingers crossed another W. Let's do some questions. So, number 1 from Daniel Ahmed. Who do you think should be the 4th choice centre-back, Gabia or Chiao?
Gabia.
Well,
he has more experience with the team. I don't think he
go
should
so far as to say Gabia could be 3rd choice. He seems a bit more mobile than Kier.
Oh, yeah. To me, Kier's the 5th choice. Kier has no business.
Okay.
We saw how well Chow did. He should be playing more, especially with him not being in the Champions League list. Like he should be getting more league minutes. And then Gabia's done better than we've all anticipated. Kier hasn't. Tomori's obviously not losing that spot. And while Kalulu is playing right back for a lot right now because we had the injuries, he's obviously the number 2. So to me, it goes Tomori, Kalulu, Gabia, Chow, Kier. Kier's in 5th.
Yeah, that's fair dues. I mean, the thing with Chiao as well, obviously with him not being in the Champions League squad list, means that his moments to play are going to be more pick and choose than someone like Gabia. But I do think Gabia hasn't really let us down when he's been called upon in some very difficult moments. Obviously, he had that deflection that led to the own goal in Verona, but people do tend to highlight his mistakes a lot more than praise his necessary intervention. And as for Kier, he's obviously going to play whenever the opportunity comes up to put a new centre back in there. But I'm yet to see him get close to the levels that he was at before his injury. To put it that way. But at the same time, I don't think he's been disastrous just yet. I do think that he's not really conducive to the way that we want to play anymore. And that is when we have Tomori and Kalulu there, they're incredibly aggressive. If Kier tries and plays that high, it doesn't work. It doesn't happen. So the team has to shift when we don't have those two together. The Milan face, do we need to look at hiring new staff for our physio department, or are the muscle injuries more a result of busy schedule? I think both can be true.
Yes. It's a combination of new physios, because it's not like this is a new problem we're facing. The scheduling is too tight, and the training field is too rough. All the players have said it. So if every single player is saying it and they're all getting injured, the same injury, why don't we fix that? That should be the easiest one.
So for me, now this seems like a really radical change, but there were some reports when there was InvestCorp and Redbird both fighting to take over. And there were some reports that came out about us moving away from Milanello and building a new world-class training facility somewhere else. If Jerry's serious and, he's like in it for the long run and he wants to see us take strides forward to being up there with the elite in all facets, then that should be a priority. The reason that we have that hybrid pitch for training, which is mostly synthetic from what I gather, and that's no good for your muscles and joints because it doesn't have any give in it, and that's what knackers your tendons, and Ibra said it. But the reason we have that is because of the weather, and the weather in northern Italy when it gets towards this time of year is terrible. The pitch either waterlogs or freezes or whatever. So I understand why we have that, because otherwise, but what we can do is build a new world-class training facility that might take a couple of years to come to fruition, so it's not an ideal fix. But at least then you can have an indoor pitch.
Yeah.
That's it at the moment. It's we train on that or nothing. So, but yeah, I do think the busy schedule is not helping. Like, players need time to let their muscles recover after games. For example, we played on Saturday. We got 2 full days. In fact, we've got 1 full day yesterday for the recovery, and the players are on a plane to Zagreb right now. There's just no time between games, and it's the World Cup year. It's a bit an odd one, I understand that, but other teams are struggling with it as well. You look at Inter are having some injury difficulties, and there are plenty of teams who are battling them. Players missing the World Cup left, right, and centre. So it is what it is, I guess. Joseph Calvo, CDK need a mobile forward like Origi to thrive, or is he better with a target man like Giroud?
I have no clue what you just said.
Something about
Repeat
is
it.
Brahim better with a Origi or Giroud?
No. Does CDK need a mobile forward like Origi to thrive, or will he come good with a target man like Giroud?
I think Origi and CDK would play better together.
Yeah, I think mobility is always better.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Manny. Sorry, I totally cut you
No,
off.
and I think that CDK just is all over the box, all over the box, and Brahim just kind of seems to play straight down the middle, and so does Giroud. So if him and Origi are both running around like crazy, then I think they'll both just do much.
Yeah, I agree.
CDK needs a little confidence boost, though. I mean, he's only been here for 11 league games,
Yeah.
But there's nothing to worry about there.
Yeah, I think you're right. You look at the last game, and when he had his big whiff, he was unmarked in the box, and that was because of all the mobility, everyone running around, pulling defenders left, right, and center. Like, that's why he was open. That's why he had the chance. Obviously, he missed it, but he's not going to miss all of those. And more mobility is always good. I think target men are just a thing of the past in today's game. With you look at like poachers are dying out because of the goal line, or on the offside technology, whatever you want to call it, VAR and all this shit. Like you're seeing the dying of poachers. You're seeing target men get blocked out because you have fast, mobile defenders now. So you can't just have a guy standing there. He's rarely going to get the ball. Mobility is the way the sport's going, and so
like I think Benzema obviously won the Ballon d'Or, and he's a bit different. Like he's been in freakish form for the last couple of years. But if you look at two modern examples of centre forwards, you're probably looking at like Lewandowski, who, he is kind of a poacher, but at the same time, he does so much work off the ball and his positioning is immaculate. And then you're looking at someone like Harry Kane, who has the physical build of being an old school centre forward, but he actually gets so involved in the build-up play that he's like a quarterback as well for the attack. Yeah. So that seems to be the way that the game's going.
And then you get freaks like Haaland who are just scoring from anywhere they touch the ball.
Interesting as well, because Haaland, he's not technically anywhere near one of the best strikers in the world. Like technical ability, like his first touch isn't like glue. But when you've got a shot that powerful and when you're that physical and big and you've got that sense for goal,
he's so
he's
fast.
A freak. He's an alien, and it is a pleasure to be watching him at the moment because fantasy points and all that, Rohit asks, and happy Diwali to anybody who is celebrating. Given Calabria has been injured, our ball progression is not as smooth as before. Does this show how much we need a deep-lying playmaker?
I mean,
That's one way of looking at it.
Yeah, no, it is. Yes.
That's one of the things that it's interesting that he's highlighted Calabria being out of the lineup there. Calabria does do that. He's quite good at carrying the ball forward, and he does get forward more than anybody else that we've got as an option to play that position. Kalulu tends to tuck in more than go bombing forward by the odd occasion. And then, what does that mean for the midfield? Well, possibly. I don't know. It depends how the team would then line up. If you had a more attacking right back, does that mean that you need a midfielder to sit deeper and cover? And do they need to be a better playmaker? I don't know. I mean, for example, we've been linked with somebody that we all know well from his time at Napoli, but we've been linked by a paper in the UK with Jorginho on a free transfer at the end of the season. Personally, I wouldn't necessarily support that move because I don't think we need a midfielder who's going to slow us down. When we're looking at Benacer and saying he's the guy because of the intensity that he plays with and the way that he carries the ball and the way that he gets stuck in. But then at the same time, I can see a use for Jorginho in certain moments because I don't think the pace in Serie A would be too much for him or anything like that. And maybe he is the kind of deeper line presence that would serve us in certain games. I think we miss Kessie in certain games still as well. There was a guy called Marcus who was stood behind us at the Chelsea game, and he said at halftime when we were losing, we still haven't replaced Kessie, and it's so obvious because against teams that play quickly and with intensity and physicality, we needed someone like Kessie to put in front of the back four and to make things a bit more difficult for us. And when Benacer and Tonali were getting completely bypassed like they were in that game, I found myself agreeing with him. But yeah, he'll be back on loan in January anyway, by the sounds of it. Kevin asks, do we need quality reinforcements in January? The 2 matches against Chelsea showed the lack of quality depth to compete in Europe. Yeah. I don't think we're going to spend much. We do, but I don't think we're going to spend much money in January.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever been a question of do we need them. I think the obvious answer is yes. I think the question is, will we get them? And I think the obvious answer is no.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, this is the first January with new ownership.
That's true. This is the first real window with it.
If Cardinale or Cardinal or whatever his name is wants to, Jerry, I'll call him Jerry
Cinnamon.
If Jerry wants to, wait and see how we do, or it sounds like he wants to make an immediate impact. So, I bet we get 1 or 2, but I wouldn't expect anything like any massive spending.
Yeah, I'm curious if we go for like healthy depth or if we're looking for like where's our weakest spot and can we get like a replacement, a big one? Here's the Jerry gift or whatever for his tenure, but it's rare that happens in January. The last one you could think of is obviously Vlahovic last season to Juve, and that was a desperation signing, and it just barely got him over the line in the Champions League. Yeah,
and it's not really. I mean, this year they look like shit. So
yeah,
I mean, he's second in top goal scorers at the moment. He's only 1 goal off, but still, it's. I mean, the rest of their team's fumbling, so you might see someone come in, but I honestly would like to see a backup goalkeeper.
That has been mentioned. If we did do that, I would hope for somebody younger. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't want to see the kind of January signings. Tomorrow aside, the January signings that we've become used to. Like Mandzukic came in and he was meant to be the guy that like bolstered our Scudetto bid. He was the Ibra backup. Swaliho Mete, and it's like, wasn't particularly inspiring. I don't think we need more players that are going to compete with Asta Vronks for a spot. I think if we are going to see something, it needs to be either a loan or very advantageous permanent deal for someone who's going to challenge to start. Might be Ziyech. His name keeps coming up again. Could be anyone along those lines, really. But I don't really want us just to sign another bit part depth player. I think we'll wrap it up there then, boys. Maddie, thank you for joining for the second part of the episode. Good to have you along. And fingers crossed that we can come back in a week and recap 2 important victories. We've got, what are we on now? 6, I want to say 6 games until the World Cup break. Until our wonderful nations meet the day after Thanksgiving, I believe it is. So that'll be fun. We might have to do something for that.
Hopefully I'll have something to be thankful for.
Yeah.
You are. Your girlfriend's family's coming to town.
I meant beating England.
Oh, okay.
It's a joke.
We might have a new prime minister by then as well. So
you never know. You might be on your 3rd one.
And another monarch.
They are going to be on their 3rd one.
Well, they're on their 3rd today. Shiki or whatever his name.
Rishi
I
Sunak,
didn't know that someone got appointed. So
yeah,
or voted
former chancellor
confidence or something.
Yeah, I said the better. Might have been an election by then. But yeah, thank you to everyone who made it this far. Drop us a like and subscribe if you haven't already on YouTube, and give us a rating on whatever podcast platform you listen on. That would be fantastic. I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. You can find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher. AJ, thank you for joining.
Yep, Torque 45. Glad to be here. I'll be here next week, and we got Madison as well.
Yeah, happy I could jump on for 25 minutes. Hopefully I'm on for the full time next week.
Thank you very much for watching, everyone. We will catch you in a week's time.
Eccolo Ante in area di rigore, Ante, Ibra, gol! Vediamo se è buono, ce lo dà buono, ce lo dà buono.